I feel like when we think of procrastination, most of the time we think of a stagnant process, or at least I picture something stagnant, someone just sitting on their phone. And maybe physically it is stagnant, but I think when you think of emotionally what is procrastination, it's usually running from something, and it's anything but a stagnant process. And procrastination is caused by emotion, it's caused by nothing else. It could be fear, it could be shame. I think shame is the big one. So I want to address the 4 main emotions that you could be feeling when you're procrastinating, and I'll start with kind of the least severe, the least insidious, and go to the ones that are more insidious. So the first one I think is what a lot of people talk about most when they talk about procrastination, and it is intimidation. And intimidation is a type of fear. So you're intimidated by the size of the task, or it seems nebulous, maybe the boundaries of what needs to happen are kind of unclear. What I like to do is outline what I'm going to do in separate chunks in a separate sitting than doing the actual thing. So maybe the night before I'll say, okay, here's this thing, it's 2 hours long, I'll break it into small chunks, and then the next day I'll just get started on the small chunk. And I try to make at least the ones at the beginning very small. Just what's the next step? Let's not think about the whole thing. Okay, I need to put on a sock. Okay, what's the smallest next step? And when you think of it in the smallest next steps, then it's not so intimidating. The second emotion that I think people could be motivated by when it comes to procrastination is stress. So it's something like, I work better under pressure. Now, there was a study done all about procrastination, and actually people perceive themselves to work better under pressure, but when they did the study, they don't actually work better under pressure. So when I think of for myself, I sometimes have a hard time if I don't have external pressure. Like with teaching, there's all sorts of external pressure about students, and I find that I'm very productive when I have all these other people whose demands I need to meet. And then when it comes to YouTube, all I need to do is meet my own expectations, and I have such a hard time when it's not externally motivated. And you have to think about, do you respect other people more than you respect yourself? And that's something that I think about. Do I really think this is important? How come I can keep all these obligations for all these other people, but I can't do it for myself? And so that comes down to, it's a external versus internal motivation problem. The next one, which I think is the big one, is maybe you want to do something creative. You've been wanting to write a book or start doing music or YouTube or something. You've been wanting to start something and you just can't quite seem to do it. A lot of times that comes from a fear of failure, of shame, of not feeling good enough, because as long as it's not started, it still has the potential to be perfect like it is in your mind. But then you get started and you're like, oh, this is actually kind of crappy. And it's hard, I've made so many YouTube videos that are not what I wanted them to be in my head. And it's so hard. It's so hard to confront your work and just be like, wow, this is just really not as good as I would like it to be. But what you have to come to a realization is that anything in your mind is not as good as the thing in real life. Just because the thing in real life actually exists. It's a living, breathing thing. It was an idea and it was brought into the real world. So they did a study, because some people are like, well, it's quality or quantity. Like maybe I could just do a few things. But they found that when they had some people, they were taking pictures, and they had one group take 100 pictures, and they had one group just focus on, okay, just, minimize, just take one really good quality photo. And they found that the group that relied on quantity actually performed better. They objectively had the better photos. And so it's kind of like a quantity begets quality. And I think a lot of people just think they just won't start because they just want the quality to be so high. But you just have to output, and you output, and you output, and the quality gets better over time, but you need the quantity first. One book, if you're doing something creative and you're feeling like you're afraid of failure, is The War of Art. It's such a good book, and they just talk about, some people are like, oh, I just can't do the work until inspiration strikes me. And in the book, he's like, well, lucky for me, inspiration strikes every day at 6 a.m. sharp. And it's something that it's another external motivator. If you're relying on inspiration, it's an external thing, and I don't like to be chained to external things. I want to be in charge of my own creations. And so a lot of times, videos that I made when I was absolutely not inspired, they'll do well. There are plenty of videos that I was very inspired by that I'm not proud of right now. Sometimes when you're inspired, you perceive yourself to be better because you're feeling it. But sometimes it's not actually objectively better. It's this perception versus reality thing. And sometimes when I'm really not feeling it, it actually is objectively a good product. I'm just not perceiving myself to be that way. When I was having a hard time getting started with YouTube, because I hadn't filmed in 5 months, who knows how long it was this time. And I just couldn't get back into it. And I wanted to, and I was feeling like ashamed for not doing it. And I was just probably for a month, just kind of spinning my wheels about it. And I started thinking about, okay, I'm going to procrastinate in the right direction. What's the funnest thing I could do right now that's in the right direction? So the first day I made a vision board. I went to this vision board party or whatever it was an SF. There was this vision board party. So I went to this vision board party and we all made vision boards. It was fun. So then the next day I'm like, okay, well, I need to get a little further in the right direction than that. I will buy filming equipment. You know, it's all these things that they're not actually getting the thing done. They're not actually filming, but they're inching you more in the right direction. And after a week of doing that, then I actually felt like doing it. And now I'm back. And now it's kind of an object in motion stays in motion, object at rest stays at rest. And at the beginning, there's this big push, but then you get the momentum and you can keep going. So I think the fourth emotion that really compounds this is what's called the double arrow. So you do something, you know, maybe you're procrastinating. You do something, you know, you feel like is wrong and you're procrastinating, but then you hit yourself with a double arrow by spinning it around and feeling ashamed and thinking, wow, I need to hurry up. This is so late, man, I never get things in. And then there's this self-talk that just starts going. And then it makes it worse. Like all that shame and telling yourself that you're not good, it doesn't help you get the thing done faster. And so not only are you now procrastinating and externally the stuff isn't getting done, but now internally there's this shame talk and you're having this issue. And it's just not going to help you get the things done externally. Once I realize that, then I can just say, okay, no, I'm going to turn the arrow around. We don't need to compound this. We don't need two layers deep. Let's just, okay, we're procrastinating. Let's just do the next thing. What's the smallest next step I can do? And then I do that thing. So yeah, that is my video on procrastination. Stop procrastinating. If you're procrastinating, get off YouTube. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Bye.